Thanks for joining us again. Now, the electioneering season in Nigeria seems to show us a totally different side of the average Nigerian politician. They come to rallies, they smile to the electorate, and they come ahead with quite a number of promises. But is that a true reflection of the kind of customer care that we get averagely as Nigeria, living in typical Nigeria? And I'm joined now this morning by the managing director of the Republic Media Limited. He's a communication expert, Monday Michaels. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Call Digest.
Thank you.
Now let's start from the scratch. Customer care in Nigeria. In your own opinion, how has it been thus far in this part of the world?
Well, I would say it's above average. It's been excellent, and particularly in private sector. It's quite an impressive component for business. If you're not actually excelling in that area, you're likely to lose most of your clientele. But for public sector, that's where we have the challenge.
And what would you say is responsible for that at this time? Because unfortunately, you go out, probably, I don't want to mention names now, and then the kind of the way you are treated over a service that you're obviously going to pay for, it's left for the man to imagine. What would you say has been responsible for this trend over time in this climate?
Well, it depends on also values. You look at companies and their values. How do they value their customers? What do they really want from their customers? What's the value to the service being provided? And how are the workers trained also to deal with customers? These have also been periodical challenges over time. We've interfaced with companies where some people take mediocrity for customer service. For example, you go to eateries or you go to some banks, and overwhelmingly the way the security men greet you and all that, you know that it's just beyond customer service. It's all about trying to get something in gratification. It's relative, and I think it also has to do with orientation. People need to understand that the customer is king, or perhaps a god with a small g, where you need to worship this customer because that's your mainstay for survival for your business. A lot of people don't see that. Some people believe that they are in essential services, so they do commodity. People must eat, people must drink, people would have to need certain services in their lives, and so for that reason, their attitude towards these customers have been quite dismal in terms of performance to customer service. But what is more important is that that customer is king, and the moment he finds an alternative where there's proper customer service and he gets value for his money, he's going to leave you.
Have you been able to trace this down to probably the values that is intrinsic to our society in this part of the world? You go to a bank, for instance, and then the way the man at the door greets you, cares for you, you almost can interpret that to be a service that you should exchange with money. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. People do you favors, what should generally be their duty, but they expect you to pay back for it. Is it a reflection of what our society has become over time?
Well, the society evolves over time, but I do not believe that it's just something that is fixed around this part of the world. I keep saying that you should not replace customer service for mediocrity. So, and you find a lot of people who just feel that this behavior is a form of customer service. Perhaps the orientation, as I earlier said, it's what is yielding that kind of behavior. And some of them, for example, you get somebody you're paying 10,000 naira who has to do a 24 hours job, and he sees people who come to consume as much as 10,000 naira in one sitting and feels that, oh, the more he greets them, the better he gets some gratification to go home. So it's all about how you package your workers, the orientation provided to them. And it's not just a product of the society, it's something across board. I keep telling people there are no two ways you land a 747. The way it lands in Nigeria is the same way it will land in London. So the same way with customer service. If customer service is customer service, quality customer service is quality customer service elsewhere in the world. So it's not about Nigeria, it's not about Ghana, it's not about South Africa. Customer service is customer service.
The economic circumstances with which we operate, does it not impact on
there are poor
the
people,
quality
there
of
are poor
customer
people
service?
elsewhere in the world. There are poor people elsewhere in the world. There's poverty everywhere in the world. But how we exhibit ours is what is most paramount. That's why I said you do not associate mediocrity to excellent customer service. Customer service, excellent customer service is giving value to the customer for his money in a very courteous manner, being aware that this customer is of immense value to you. But it's not about coming down to doff your heart and the moment he leaves you sigh and hiss and call him a fool.
You talk about above average for the private sector, but not quite a number of Nigerians would agree with that evaluation. Let's take telecommunication companies, for instance. You see cases where you make a call and then you don't get value for the money, you know, that you paid for that call. You have dropped calls, they charge you for it. In your attempt to reach the customer care, it takes you an hour or thereabout. And these are service providers that are making billions, if not trillions, in this climb. How do you justify that?
I will not hold brief for any telecoms company, but I think they've done exceptionally well given the climate to which they operate. This is a country where you run your own government and then pay the same government your taxes. Most of them run their base stations running 24 hours on diesel. So what is the quality of power they get? They provide their own security. When they come to even fuel those base stations, they pay the area boys or the touts around that area to have access to their own base stations. Now, it's not an excuse also to get dropped calls, but there are also regulatory issues and standards to addressing some of these issues. I think the problem is how many Nigerians are well aware of their rights as consumers. There's a Consumer Protection Council. We have also the Consumer Protection Desk at the NCC. And if I recall years back, there was some time that the networks were charged with providing more airtime to subscribers because of this poor quality service. So there are measures that have been taken by NCC when we have repeated calls about this poor quality service. Now that also goes to say that in service quality management, you'll find out that there are the regulatory bodies that are in charge of seeing to it that some organizations, particularly big players in certain sector, meet up certain service quality. And the NCC oversees that. You have Consumer Protection Council also involved in it. At state levels, I think Lagos State also have been able to do certain kinds of things to ensure that what they do, there's something that comes back to the society. If you look at agencies like the infrastructural regulatory agencies, they also ensure that these people don't go around building masts all around the place without any form of compensations to consumers as well. The same thing applies to calls. When you have dropped calls repeatedly over time, the NCC sanctions the network and will tell them for that reason you need to compensate the customers with airtime or by giving them extra minutes and so on and so forth. There are things you cannot actually isolate with technology. There will be failed calls from here and there, but what we want is what percentage of it. It should not be a recurring issue.
Well, these regulatory bodies you made mention, have they been able to bridge the gap between the needs of the people and the actual reality? Because when you get down to how many Nigerians really do have access to these regulatory bodies?
Their phone numbers are in public. They're not hidden. The NCC has a site. There are emails, and they respond to their emails. I've not heard where anybody said he sent an email to NCC. I'm not holding brief for them, but that MCC did not respond. They respond promptly. There are few government agencies that you would find that are in charge of regulations that have worked effectively well. But some, with due apologies, they are nothing to write home about.
How do we build these values, especially into our public service? Because recently I made an attempt to renew my international passport, and I had a cost to also visit that public sector. And you know, the way they treat you at times, it makes you feel like they're doing you a favor. And it's like, you come to my job, I'm supposed to treat you well because I'm honored to have you here. If you do not patronize me, I'm not going to be paid. How do we run public sectors just the way private sectors are being run in Nigeria?
Public service or civil service is a social contract between the public and the servants who work in those areas. And I think if they do not understand that they are servants, then they will think they're doing you a favor. And the challenge had always been is that some of us find ourselves always in a hurry to conclude transactions, or always in a hurry to run our businesses. So for that reason, some of these public or civil servants take advantage of it. Yeah. That had always been the loopholes. I give an instance. The immigration's original fee for a passport may be within 15 to 20,000, but some persons will tell you, okay, if you bring 25,000, then you will get your passport within 24 hours, and so on and so forth. Why should you pay for that? That fee is not an express charge to the pockets of the government.
Do you know how long it takes to get it the normal way?
That's what that way we say this, the social contract. It's what is important. There was a deliberate attempt by the Obasanjo's government at a particular time to have what they call Savicom placed in all government agencies. Part of the duty of that agency was to see that the service contract for each government agency is followed and adhered to strictly. But that had not been the case because some of the persons who sat over those desks were as worse as the persons they were supposed to supervise. That's why I said the important issue is having the proper orientation, having people who have the competence to do the job first, then before you think about having the person who should be able to say that this man has not done well or has done well. Now, where you see a particular behavior over time, trailing over time, I'll give an instance, for example, trying to get a passport or trying to get a driver's license. I have been to a situation at the road safety office where I got there, and there was a man who came out to have a lecture with us. And he came out to say with every sense of arrogance that there are just about 2 or 3 of them in the country that know about tracing fake driver's license, and he's here to talk about it and all that. And I told him that you're a sign of failure. That if you're just 3 and you at this level and the rank you wear, you have the time to come and sit with us to talk about it, you're a sign of failure. How many people have you trained over time to take over from you or to make this job a lot easier? So for that reason, because he feels his job is threatened, he's the only one that would know. He's the only one we all have to wait. If he's not there, there will be no data capture. So that's the experience. So it behoves on the Road Safety Commission, for example, now to say, okay, fine, for effective customer service delivery, we need 10 of such persons at every station. So sometimes it has to do with also what is provided for and the capacities of the persons who are at that stage. And I told them, for God's sake, when we were having manual driver's license, it took about a week, and you just get there, the VIO will do the road test and all that, and then you have written on one cardboard and with your passport on it, you have a driver's license. Now, the technology that was introduced is meant to make service more effective and efficient. Then someone will do data capture in Lagos. Someone will have to approve in Abuja. Someone will have to print somewhere in London. And then all the cards will go back to Abuja. Someone will verify in Abuja, and then it takes about 6 to 7 months to get to Lagos. Now, that is not customer service. It's just, these are deliberate administrative bottlenecks to ensure that someone finds himself important in public service.
It's 18 days to go for the next general election, and given the complexity of all of these challenges, especially in the public sector, do you see the change really in the political realm? For instance, you have a situation whereby there's a system of collecting passports in Nigeria, and that system is known to everybody. I believe everybody in that commission. Right. Will it take a new president or a new political party to actually bring the change? Does it work that way?
It may not. You know, most public institutions are guided by certain statutes, laws, acts, or also by the Constitution. Some of the laws are quite clear about how they should operate. So if you do not apply the change to those laws or to those acts, you're likely to get these agencies performing in the same way and manner to which they do. But also, what is important, it's for those who are at the helm of affairs to tell themselves, look, we need to be very effective in the way we do our business. And I keep telling someone that the more man hours we waste for example, waiting to get a passport or driver's license, the more revenue the government is also losing. What prevents me from going to a post office, for example, that may have biometric machines and capture my data for driver's license, capture my data for national ID card, capture my data for international passport, submit all the documents there, and go home. And the documents are also processed to the agencies concerned. They get their revenue. And they would also call me if there's any need or anything to question. That's what you can find in advanced economies. And within 24 hours or 48 hours, you have your passport. If I know that is effective, I'm sure immigration should be doing over 1 million passports in a day, if that is possible. But with what they're doing now, you may have less than 10,000 passports in a day coming out. And it's supposed to generate revenue for the government.
And you're saying that a change necessarily might not be in the change in political leadership to make things be done the right way.
The civil service have rules and regulations, so do the public service. So a change of government would only if it will require effecting that change through the National Assembly. That's where it's possible. But it's not going to work by just making policy statements. Some of these issues are embedded in the acts and the laws that established most of these institutions.
On whose shoulders really lie this responsibility, or who takes the blame for such a rot that we're now experiencing in our system?
Well, those are the hem of affairs for those public institutions who have over the years refused to bring out initiatives to change or overhaul the process. Because if you look at this rot, it didn't just happen overnight. Some of these things have been existing over time, and gradually, as technology and other emerging trends take place over time, these guys are lagging behind, and there's a gap in their service delivery, and they see it as just another way to survive, and then some other persons take advantage of that same gap to enrich themselves. But if you have people at the helm of affairs who are proactive in nature, they need to, if there's a law that actually restricts them from making these changes, they need to push to the legislature that they need these things to be amended. But you would not find that. The second part of it is that the public who benefits from it, the middlemen, they also share blame in it. For those of us who agree to deal with the middlemen, we also share blame in it. Then those in government who do not have the vision to see that these areas in governance needs to change, also share blame in it.
Now, that's on the part of the public and private sector. What role do the people play here? People who go to the market and eventually exchange money for commodities and they find out it is fake, who have not gotten value for their money. You know, it seems to have gotten to a state whereby people just take it as it is, and there is no, they don't seem to see a solution or a way out of the mess.
It also goes to the level of ignorance by the consumer. There's a Consumer Protection Council. The laws are quite explicit. The sections and the provisions of the Consumer Protection Council gives an average consumer in this country his rights to make a protest against poor service, poor quality of products, fake products. But the problem is, some people just feel that I'm not ready to go through this process.
Well, should they take a protest to make these regulatory bodies swing into action? Do they need someone like me to tell them that there are still fake toothpaste, there are fake commodities all across the market in Nigeria?
That's another thing. You see, they have what we call interagency cooperation in this aspect. For example, you have standards organization. That's their statutory role to find out about substandard products, poor quality products and all that. And I think they've been doing that. They've been taking the bold step. And then manufacturers of these products who have taken proactive steps. I recall that Techno had to get standards organization and the law enforcement agencies into Computer Village and other places to get rid of grey products perpetually emanating with their name.
Is there a possibility that they are also being overwhelmed? Because if you say they are working and then you match it with the reality. Just a minute. Let's check this caller out. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I'm saying Ajibola from Osogbo.
Ajibola from Osogbo.
Ajibola from Osogbo.
We're discussing customer service. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello?
Go ahead with your contribution, Ajibola.
Yes, okay, I'm Ajibola. Please, you just forgive me. I'm talking what I hear on your screen. What or not I hear. Right now, my start time does not give the sound for your television station. Moreover, I want to talk about customer exploitation and extortion by MTN.
Ajibola, just a minute. Let's take it one by one. What did you say? What did you say about start times, Ajibola? Just a minute. What did you say about start times?
I say right now on my phone on start time, I cannot hear you.
Okay.
I cannot hear you.
You can only see yours.
The topic.
Okay. Okay.
That's the part of customer care.
I see. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Usually we receive this one is customer exploitation and extortion by MTN. Usually we receive a text message. They ask us to subscribe to some items. They tell us the sum of money as to pay. If one likes it, one does it, or one does it. On Saturday, I got a message that if election was held on Saturday, who would I vote for? This is not indicate this is not indicate I will have to pay. I hope you are with me.
Yes, we are.
I took part, I'm 59 was deducted. I was not told I will have to pay for it. I was thinking it is what happened in civilized country, where people conduct opinion polls.
That's right.
I'm sorry, I'm not my television is not, your station is not, I'm only saying what is your screen. I cannot hear you.
I understand. Thank you very much for your contribution. I got that message too. Thank God that I didn't reply. He said they deducted 59. You said the level of customer exploitation. And yet you expect that for someone now who is not getting audio on a StarTimes device. I mean, people are busier than protesting, so to speak. Someone who's busy about fending for his family, who really has that time.
See, the moment you stop, that's where the challenge will start. The moment you stop, they will feel that it's okay. If I can't get audio on my television from a service that I have paid for, there's a customer service line. If the challenge would be that I tried to get across to the customer service line, they had not been satisfactory in addressing the issue. And then you should also ask, in the case where you have poor service quality, what form of compensation should exist? And that is why it's advisable that most times when you pick up products, there are always pamphlets or documents that attach the terms and conditions for the usage of those products. And where there are issues concerning service quality, how you should address them. Will they replace these products? Now, in the case where there's poor audio service now, he is calling for Moshogbo. Perhaps there are a lot of people within the vicinity where he is that cannot get the same audio service. And they just say, oh, it's just part of it. Don't worry, it will come up tomorrow. That's how they behave. And the moment you make it a routine, for the man in the office, he's not getting any feedback. And he cannot respond to that challenge. It's because you're dealing with technology. Sometimes what it's been outputted may not be what you may be receiving. But it's important for feedback. Customer service would always require feedback. And if you do not make that feedback appropriate to the appropriate place, you don't get it. The other side are about unsolicited SMSs.
Okay.
These issues have been addressed by NCC, and I think the networks have been called, some have been sanctioned. But I do not know how unsolicited text messages can end. Anywhere elsewhere in the world is also an issue. But it is also fraudulent for someone to organize a poll or to send messages without stating the fee on that SMS if you should respond.
People are still being exploited.
Yes. So that exploitation, if it had happened and it's happening on a particular network, that network would bear the responsibility.
It's all right. Let's take this last call on this segment. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, there's a good program going on Call TV now.
Yes? I need you to turn down the volume of your TV set. You're on the program right now. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Then I heard the YouTuber talking about ID card. Okay. Yes. I'm
Dr. Tsoji from Ikeja, turn down the volume of your TV set and go ahead with your contribution.
Yes. I've been wanting to, hello, I want to ask about the national ID card. I've been waiting for the last 2 years now. I've not gotten the card. They only gave me one paper that I laminated. When are we going to get it in Lagos? Please, come back.
I'm
not sure whether that's within your jurisdiction.
I don't work for National Identity Management Commission, but I know that they have their site, they have customer service lines there as well. They have emails. You could just put up an email to the email you find on nimc.gov.ng. They will respond. They will tell you whether your card is ready and somebody has not given it to you. They also have an office in Lagos for you and Ikeja in Lagos. So at Alausa is close to the state secretariat. You can walk in there.
I think I understand the fact that consumers have to do more to engage service providers and giving them feedback as regards the quality of service. And
yes,
of course, the
feedback is important. But what is also important is the framework or the institutional structure you've created in your organization to ensure that customer feedback is appropriately dealt with. It's unfortunate that someone registered for his ID card for 2 years.
And he hasn't gotten
and nobody has, has deemed it appropriate. You'll be surprised that ID card is lying idle somewhere in the office, packed somewhere, and you walk in there and they say, oh, why didn't you come? Like as if you owe them that responsibility of leaving your business to come and attend to an ID card. So I think the most important thing is the framework you put for your customer service.
Right.
When your products are ready, do you call your customers? And if they stay long with you, what do you do?
Mother Michaels is Managing Director, CEO of the Republic Media Limited. I believe that we have to find some other time to talk more on these issues. Thank you very much for finding time to join us today.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking security. Stick around. Don't go away.
The man on the streets have come to realize that the power to make decisions lies in the hands of the people.
The president is the most guided person in Nigeria. And men getting to him is like, we all know it's a political propaganda, so I don't believe what he said is true.
But they are not just ordinary people.
Up to that time, when you look at Nigeria, Nigeria has been a confluence of a theater of anarchy, confusion, dichotomy, marginalization, and a lot of lamentations have been existing.
They are people of influence.
I'm not happy. How can my brother plan against me to kill me when you know that I'm in power to save you? I protected you to make things good for everybody in Nigeria, not even I. Everybody in Nigeria.
And they are very, very important.
What we want now is who will salvage Nigeria. We are not interested in tribe or ethnicity or whatever. Who will save Nigeria?
The people, only on Core TV News.